All right. We're live.
All right, we're back. Welcome back, AOAO. Welcome back to Your Everyday Rich podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason,
And I'm Jen.
my lovely co-host as well. And today we are, well, before we talk about today, Your Everyday Rich podcast, if you guys are listening for the first time, is a podcast around financial literacy, but really structured in kind of this format of living room conversations. So, want to empower you with knowledge and stories so that you can make the best decisions for your money and how to grow that money so that you can really live a lifestyle by design and the whole thing of your everyday rich, right? And you define that, but obviously we need to make our money work for us. So, stuff around investing, just financial literacy in general, business stuff, your career mindset, and wrapped around all this whole like navigating some cultural wackiness of being a Asian millennial in this wacky world now. Um, but before we get started, we always highlight our friends and families' small business. So today we are highlighting again our good friends at Portraits on White. Sorry, the number one, the best in my opinion, photo booth company in the Greater Toronto area. Classy black and white photos, timeless, capture your moments.
Can't go wrong.
There goes our TV.
I noticed that earlier, but it's okay.
All right. Well,
life goes on.
Yeah, sorry. If you're on the YouTube, you'll see that our TV's cutting in and out. So, but yeah, go check them out, portraitsonwhite.com. Let's go speak to Claudia, the owner. She'll hook you up. I don't have a discount code. Pay the full price, damn it. Okay. But today we have a special guest, Taki Wong, and this 25-year-old stud that we met. Really, it was actually this interesting story, which I'll get into the story of how I met him. And it was a few years ago, where it was just through a network of real estate investors, but through another investor friend that we actually interviewed, Jonathan Wong, on whatever episode that is. Go back. And we ended up having a really good conversation over a few beers, and chatted all about different things. And what really kind of caught my attention and has continued to really kind of, I'd say, impress me, is the fact he's so young yet so motivated and energized to really do big things with his wealth and his financial journey, considering where I was when I was 25 and you, Jen, 25.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I know exactly where I was at 25.
clubbing. But Taki is like busy plotting away his story here, and it's just really inspiring to see someone so young. And that's the whole point, where we want to bring on young guests, older guests, guests of all ages, right? But hopefully this whole his story, you guys can resonate with this one and take some good tidbits, because he's got an interesting journey about how he kind of got to his current investing journey, specifically with real estate, and how I think if you are looking to get into the real estate market for the first time, as a first time home buyer or as an investor, or maybe both at the same time, this is something you want to listen to. His tactics are bang on, and the way he approached it is something you'll want to hear. So, without further ado, welcome our buddy, our friend, Taki Wong.
How you guys doing?
All right. What's up, man?
Glad to have you on.
Oh man. Thank you. Yeah. It's a pleasure being on here. And Jason Jason, Jen, and I, we talked about this for a while, and it's really great to be alive here. Just sharing the story and just hopefully inspiring others to take action and move at an early age. So, or even if you're not at an early age, like just in general, just sharing what we're doing here. So, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. We're very excited to bring you on and pick your noggin here. So I guess for the 9 people that listen to this podcast, can you kind of give the 411 on who Taki is and like how old you are? Well, we said how old you are, but
what do you do?
What do you do
Sure.
for your career and basically like what kind of Asian are you? I gotta use a Russell Peters line here.
Yeah. So my two passions in life, I would say, are technology and real estate. I love those two things, and I could spend days talking about both of those. My 9 to 5, my day job is a product manager, and what that job basically means is I work with a bunch of stakeholders like engineers, architects, designers, marketers, finance folks to build software. And lately, I've been actually transitioning into the sales side of things as well. So the product that I build is a enterprise SaaS software. So essentially, different corporations will use this software to digitize their workplace and create basically their office environment online. Right now, we're working on revamping our platform, and we're actually looking to release this new upgrade at the end of the month. So I've been kind of heads down in terms of figuring out and finalizing the build, as well as engaging with our European and American customers to ensure that the release of this build is successful and we get money and clients basically from the software that we're building. And on the side, like I've been, I want to say obsessed or I just love like real estate in general and just investing in real estate. And that takes up most of my free time outside of work. So whether it's analyzing the next deal or figuring out private equity ventures with partners, etc., or just in general networking with great people like you guys, I try to occupy most of my time outside of work doing that. And the hope is, we'll get to this maybe eventually in the conversation, but the hope is to combine those two passions eventually, so that I can pursue something full time and really just have that technology side kind of help real estate investors, right? With technology. So I got a couple ideas brewing in the back, but yeah, that's essentially what I do in terms of my professional life. And yeah, outside of work, and if I'm not doing those two things, I I love just spending times with friends and family. So whether that's a simple thing like going on a hike or going to the cottage, etc., like those are memories that obviously like I cherish, and it's things that I look forward to as well. So yeah, that basically constitutes the majority of what I do day to day.
So
So
how about clubbing? Because being 25. Sorry, I gotta bring this up. Because it's like someone that's 25. Do you go clubbing? Do you go clubbing still? Is that still a thing?
Oh man, like I went to McMaster, so in Hamilton, and clubbing
quarters
was
still there?
no, it was there before. I don't think it's there anymore, but clubbing was definitely something that I did. It's fun, of course. Actually, it's a funny story, but I actually met my girlfriend, who I've been dating for the last 6 years, in homecoming in one of the clubs in McMaster.
Oh, really?
Crazy
That's
because
awesome.
yeah, it's a wild story because like if you ever meet Julia, like she is like like you will not identify clubbing with her. Like she's like the complete opposite of that. She just goes there to dance kind of thing, right? Which I respect. But I met her during the homecoming at one of the Hamilton clubs called Sizzle. Shout out Sizzle.
Shout out Sizzle.
Yeah, man, like that is that's the story. And then like what, after I met her, right, we started dating. I'm like, I don't need to go to clubs anymore. I have a
Yeah.
girlfriend. I'm blessed. So then I kind of ended it kind of ended my clubbing career, I guess prematurely.
Yeah.
After that, so that's kind of the story of
It
clubbing.
saved you a lot of money.
So how did you
Yeah.
decide to like look into real estate? I mean, was that influence from yourself like growing up, or
Yeah.
was it more just something you decided to Google because you saw something on social media? Like how did you
Yeah.
decide to go and like, stop clubbing and start studying real estate?
No, that's a great question. That's a great question.
Other than your girlfriend, of
So
course.
yeah. um, yeah. So I think to answer that question, I got to talk a little bit about my parents. So both of them are very, I would say, non-traditional Asian. And the reason why I say that is because they're both entrepreneurs, and they never pushed me to be a doctor or a lawyer, a pharmacist, whatever. Like
Mhm.
their intent and goal was for me to always explore, right? Explore different financial opportunities out there, try and fail, and then eventually, like, learn and do something yourself, basically, right? And have your own business. Like that was their whole mindset growing up. So they never pressured me in terms of like, like studying hard and doing stuff. Like even though that's something that I did inherently, I guess is part of like, our culture. But, their focus was primarily like, oh, like, do you see how this business works? Like, and talk a little bit about that. Right. And then also my dad actually he owned a agricultural business. So he actually had a vertical farm producing exotic mushrooms for French, Italian, and Chinese cuisines. Very niche. Like he was the only
Oh.
one in actually Canada that did that when he first started off. He taught me at a very early age, like look for those blue ocean opportunities, right? Like look for those opportunities that no one else is doing, because that's where the competition doesn't matter, right? Like you can do
Mhm.
whatever you want. And
Did he
then at
grow
the
it?
same time, my mom,
Sorry, did he
yeah, he
grow
grew
it?
everything actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he grew everything. And this guy wasn't even that, like, he didn't graduate from high school. Like he literally had like connections in Hong Kong, where both my parents are from. He was really good friends with this professor, this Japanese professor that studied Japanese fungi, like the cuisine kind,
Mhm.
and he was able to bring some of that technology over to Ontario, and start a farming facility to produce and sell those
Wow.
produces to restaurants and grocery stores around Canada. He sold that business and he retired. But on the side, my mom, like when we started to make a little bit of money, my mom took that money and immediately started investing in real estate because, actually her parents started doing that before as well. So it's kind of like it was, like kind of passed down in a sense. But I remember growing up when I was like, I don't know, like ever since I was like 4 or 5, every single weekend we go to open house, right? Like, and we just always check out stuff. And then eventually when, like, we had a portfolio going, when I was old enough, like I was essentially property managing that portfolio. So I was managing the portfolio, making sure that tenants were like, paying on time, like even going and doing repairs and like making sure that like, the properties looked okay, etc.
Mhm.
A lot of the stuff I was able to get exposure to at an earlier age. And eventually when you're surrounded in that, you're like, okay, maybe I should like, start doing that. Like that sounds like, like I've seen it, I've done it before. Why don't I try to do it myself? And
Mhm.
that's kind of how this kind of real estate investment journey kickstarted. And this started probably like, like towards the end of high school, like entering university. And then, it kind of snowballed from there. So, yeah, that's essentially how, I got exposed to real estate, and, yeah, how I was able to, eventually get my hands on real estate. Yeah.
That's pretty cool because you don't hear this very often in terms of being entrenched at an early age in real estate, especially in the Asian community, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's obviously outliers and things like that, but for the vast majority of Asian immigrants, like that wasn't really the case. It was just work, save your
Work hard and
money,
save money. Yeah.
buy mutual funds, and be on your merry way, right? And then maybe
Yeah.
stumble upon real estate down the road. But being immersed with it every single day, it's pretty awesome that you got that early exposure. I'm just trying to imagine like 10-year-old 14-year-old Taki going to the properties, be like with a clipboard to be like, hey, you haven't paid your rent, man, come on, come on.
Pay
So,
your rent, buddy. Yeah.
yeah, develop that
Yeah.
sales side of you already.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. So it's like, that's pretty cool, because then that becomes part of your part of your childhood, right? Even though, you were
Yeah.
mentioning every week it's something that you saw, but you know it's something that I kind of see our kids right now, is whatever we immerse our kids in right now, it just becomes natural for them. Like, it's not something that
Yes.
they
Yeah.
believe they'll miss out on, or they, this or that. It's something that is part of their life,
Yeah.
and you being able to capitalize that, it's really, really cool, man. So
Yeah, we've brought our kids to some of our properties before, and they ask, "So, why are we going here again?" And
Hmm.
we'll just tell them like, "Hey, we own this house, and we're letting someone else, live in it, but they're gonna pay
Yeah.
us to live in it." They're
mhm.
like, "Oh,
Hmm.
okay." Mm.
Yeah.
So
I, I
they're just
I think
exposed
that's
to it, right?
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think that's awesome what you guys are doing. Hopefully eventually when I have kids, I want to do the same, right? Like I want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're exposed at an early age. And it's okay to ask questions as well, right? Because they,
Yeah.
they won't know off the bat what's going on. But over time, like hopefully they pick up on some cues, and then they'll remember down the line, they're like, oh wait, you know, my dad taught me that I should invest in these types of properties, or like this is how you manage tenants, etc. And it's just going to help them down the line. So it's really great to see that you guys are doing that with your kids as well.
yeah. No, we're just copying other people, so it's nothing, not rocket science. So
Yeah,
you were mentioning, like, so at an early age being exposed to this, what did you pick up the most from, like, your mom or your dad in terms of this real estate stuff? Because there's obviously a lot to
yeah,
absorb, right? Do you remember kind of what were some of the things that you remember, like, vividly about properties, and kind of
yeah,
what you carry
yeah,
forward now?
yeah. No, that's a great question. I think there's a couple things. The ones that jump out at me are how important it is to invest in good locations. I think like like the properties that we ended up purchasing were all centralized around the greater Toronto area. Specifically, there was like there's condos downtown, and there's some like townhouses around Markham and like Richmond Hill area as well. But like they would rather wait a couple years to purchase a good asset as opposed to get into something that's cheaper. That's always been the mindset since day
Mm-hmm.
one. Is save and then get into a good location, because at the end of the day, like like you can definitely purchase assets that are a lot cheaper, but if your intent is to build a portfolio for the long term, the best bet is always to go for a good location, one that like will appreciate. Even though we know as investors that we can't always rely on appreciation, it's just good to have that inherently trenched within your asset, so that there's a lot of good benefits that comes with that, as well as good tenant quality and just overall kind of appreciation potential for the property. So that's the number one thing. And I think something that I eventually kind of picked up later on was just how to treat tenants, because I always found that there was a lot of respect that my parents had towards tenants, and they would always try to treat them and make sure that their stay was the best possible, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like responding to their emails, like seeing them face to face, addressing problems that come up right away, like any repairs or maintenance, stuff like that. And in general, having respect for the property and maintaining that as well, making sure that it's in a good livable condition and we're providing good housing for others. Those two, I think, were the biggest pieces. And it's funny because like when I bring up like Jason knows this, like I'm really like intense about like analysis, and like I love bringing up spreadsheets and numbers and all that
Yeah.
stuff. When I bring that up to my parents, they're like, don't worry about it, right? Like just buy somewhere that's good location, right? And then just ride, because they've been blessed with like the wave, right? Like
Oh
how like
yeah.
real estate has been going up for the last like 10 years. They rode it at the perfect time. So they just bought it in a good location, and they got blessed basically with the appreciation over
Mm-hmm.
time. But then, like, us, like, we know that there's a cycle that comes with the real estate, right? It's not always up. Things go down as well, right? So
Oh, Taki, come
um
on, things don't go down.
with that as well, right? So, like, it's important to have, like, I'm
Mhm.
starting to obviously invest with that mindset in mind as well. But it's just funny seeing how, the older generation kind of, you know how their mindset was in terms of investing, and how, nowadays when we take a look at property, it's like, if we don't run 10 spreadsheets on it, we're not looking at it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we got to make sure that, like, it's good, and like, and we run different angles through the analysis. So yeah, just a different way of looking at things. But I'd say those top two, like, look at location
Yeah,
and how to treat tenants, like, those are things that I carry with me every day.
it's
Yeah.
very important. Like, I mean, the things that you mentioned are basically fundamentals of real estate investing 101.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It always just says location, location, location. No matter what you do, you can't take the hood out of the ghetto out of the hood, right? So,
Yeah.
or what's the
Yeah.
saying? You know what I'm saying? You can't take. Yeah. Okay.
We know
Whatever.
what you mean.
You know what I mean, right? So it's like, if you buy in a good property, in a good location, and a great neighborhood, a sought after neighborhood with great fundamentals of economics and population and all that stuff, it's just going to work itself out. Like, you let it work itself out.
Yeah, the good tenants will come.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
tenants it'll attract
Good
the right
tenants will
crowd.
come.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the whole you build it, it'll come
Yeah.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that obviously that's just great that, your parents stuck to a very golden rule. And fundamentally, I think, a lot of investors are trying to look around that because of this whole
Prices.
prices, right? The bull wave, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, we just can buy anything and everything just goes up. But like you
Yeah.
said, now that it's getting tougher, that becomes even more important, and especially running numbers. So,
Hmm.
you being the
Hmm.
numbers guy now, and I remember you were showing me your Excel spreadsheet at your house, and it was just like, we're looking at the television screen. I was just like, wow, this is pretty in depth. This is pretty good. And by the way, I was very impressed with your Excel skills. You and Jennifer should have an Excel battle.
Oh, no, that's loose.
I'm a spreadsheet person
Yeah,
too.
she's my spreadsheet girl. So goal seek.
Nice.
But yeah, like, so okay, this whole thing, you're the analytical person and your parents are pretty much like fundamentals, and you've kind of married those two together with obviously your childhood experience of like doing the
Hmm.
tactical things now. So now, you're kind of, you're mentioning coming out of university, and you start doing, you're focusing on your career, obviously building that up, and stuff like that. And then you start looking into real estate because it's obviously it's part of your life. Then
Hmm.
you decide a few years ago that you're like, okay, I'm gonna go start buying myself, right? Because you built up
Yeah.
enough capital, whatever, all that stuff. What's your thought process here? Like, how did you go about like what I should be doing, and run us through kind of what went through your head when you were like, okay, I want to buy a house. Was it for like primary residence, or for just purely investment purposes?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, so the mindset, I'll bring you back to that, to my mindset when I graduated university. And this was a couple years ago, but the mindset was twofold. The first was, I actually graduated with a finance degree, but I knew I wanted to do tech at that time. So it was breaking into the tech industry. That was the number one thing. And luckily I was able to secure a product role with Bell at that time. So it was just kind of making sure that I'm prepared for that role. And then on the other side as well with real estate, I knew that I wanted to begin building my own portfolio. And I wanted to essentially understand how I can, quote unquote, kill two birds with one stone. And what I mean by that is I wanted to move out of my parents' place, but I also wanted a real estate investment, right? So I thought to myself, I was like, okay, like, if I wanted to do both of them, right, like, there must be a way for me to invest in a property that, of course, is a good location, um, but also be able to potentially, split that property into a rental unit as well as a primary residence unit for myself. And in the industry, we call this house hacking. So, the intent was always to find a property that fit that criteria. Now, little did I know that that journey would take me, a year and a half, maybe a little bit more, right, just to find that one property. It was definitely not a walk in the park to find it, but I'm glad that I took my time doing that, and we analyzed deal after deal after deal, walked through many, many, many properties to eventually get into this primary residence that I'm in right now. I'm glad that we took the time to do that, but essentially that was the mindset going into building the portfolio. I knew that after I got the first property, there would be enough equity for me to eventually use that equity to invest in the next one. I didn't, however, forecast that the interest rates would jump up like crazy like they
Yeah.
did, and that kind of stunted the growth a little bit. But there's always creative workarounds there. But yeah, that was essentially my mindset. Heading out of university, and to double click into the real estate side of things as well. That was when I really started to just try to network, right, and talk to other folks in the industry as well, because I knew that I'm just starting off, and even with this experience that I have in the past, I knew that like it's nothing compared to actual investors who are going out there and building their own portfolio. So I definitely made it an effort to head to different networking events and just meet other people as well in the
Mm-hmm.
industry, just to get different perspectives, and to understand what works and maybe even what doesn't work, in terms of investments. And I'm really happy I did, because I was able to meet wonderful people like you, and it just really helped solidify some of the tactics and strategies that I had in my head, and was able to allow me to focus on, okay, like the first one is going to be a house hack. How am I going to get that?
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of reverse engineer everything from there.
So
Yeah.
why did it take a year and a half? Like what specific criteria you were looking for that, took the long time to find the house that would meet it?
Yeah. So for me, like I said, the number one thing was the location. So I wanted the property to be inside the Richmond Hill and Vaughan location. You could think of the two highways, like 400, 401. I wanted it to be within that kind of that area.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why was because I knew that location was good. I grew up in Baby Hill, Richmond Hill area, so I know that area pretty well. And then also, like, it's eventually, it's an area that I can raise my children in. So that's thinking super far in the future, but
Mm-hmm.
it's an area that I'm super comfortable with. So I wanted to have a house there that I can call my home for the indefinite future. So the first thing was setting the location parameter down, and then price comes afterwards as well. We had a budget that we're working with, and we wanted to essentially find a property that not only could inhabit myself, but also tenants as well. So it needed to have a basement, and needed to be able to be separated from the upper and lower unit, and that actually cut out a lot of the available properties out there, because most of the properties in these suburbs are just built as regular detached houses or townhouses, with basements, that do not have that separate entrance. So
Yeah.
finding that was a little bit of a difficulty. And then the third one as well was the market factors at that time. We were looking, towards the end of 2021 into 2022, and we all know how the market was
Mm-hmm.
at that time, heating up like crazy. So even when we found a good property and we were able to bid on that property, unfortunately, there was a whole bunch of bidding activity as well. I remember one of the properties that I really, really wanted in Richmond Hill, at a spectacular price. I put a solid bid. It was actually, maybe 150, 175 over asking. So it was, kind of stretching it for us.
Wow.
And then someone else came in and they put 500K over asking.
Holy
No
smokes.
contingencies,
500K.
nothing like that. Yeah,
Wowzers.
and then they got the deal like that, right?
Of
So it's just
course.
like
Duh.
it was moving. The market was moving like that
Yeah.
at that time, right? So you can imagine, like, it was kind of competitive, and I think it still is, definitely,
Yeah.
in
Taki, what
terms
was the
of
price
getting.
point, just for reference?
Yeah, for me, the price point that I was working with was anywhere from 1 to 1.3.
Sorry. Okay,
Million.
yeah, for the ones you're looking for. But what was that one that you bid on? And someone came over 500K asking.
Yeah, like they wanted, I believe they wanted 1.25. That was a listing price. So we
Oh
came in
wow.
around like 1.37, I think,
Yeah.
and then someone literally came in like 1.7 and they're like,
Oh
okay, just
my
take it.
gosh.
And
Jesus.
then we're like, all right, like, okay, if you got that money, like, like good for you. So like, that was kind of the market at that time. Um,
So how many
yeah,
offers?
it
Like
was really
how
interesting.
many offers did you lose
Oh
to like at
man.
that time? Like how many offers did you put
Yeah.
in till you got the one
Well,
that
I
you
put it.
got?
Yeah. So here's how the math worked out. We toured maybe around we toured in person around, I want to say 80 properties. Out of those 80
Wow.
properties, we put offers on, I want to say 15 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to the final stage for, I think, 3 of them. And then this is the one that we locked down. So it wasn't, yeah, it definitely, was a process. Shout out to my realtor as well, Jason
Yeah.
Ma, for sticking with us and kind of, persisting through that. He's been the guy that we've worked with for many, many years. But yeah, it was that's a transparency of things. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
easy for sure, right? Like
No,
it
but
was like
that's
we had to go out there and really hustle to find this one.
no, but
Yeah.
that's good. But you knew what you wanted and you stuck with it, right? You didn't
Mhm.
let anybody else and the pressure of the market kind of, get to you and to make a decision that maybe potentially you didn't want to make, right?
And
That's right. That's right.
that's the thing we want to highlight here, because if you're listening and you're thinking about getting into real estate as an investment or combining a primary residence to and an investment like Taki is describing house hacking, you want to enter with again this emotionless
Yeah.
state of mind. You're an investor, not a homeowner, right? Because
Mhm.
Taki could have easily put 400K over or whatever
And got the
and
property.
got the property, right? But his fundamentals, his metrics, the criteria that he was following would have got blown out of the water, and then this investment property would have been way underwater right now. I can guarantee
Yeah.
you that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That person that
Yeah.
paid 500K over,
100%.
what a dummy. But
Well, but
like
that's different though. Maybe they're buying it for a primary residence, right?
still a dummy. Okay, I don't care. Okay, I'm gonna blow all that smoke right now. Like that.
No, no,
You're
agreed.
gonna hear all those stories where people went way too
Yeah.
much, and in a market where emotions took over. And
Yeah.
Taki, you experienced this. Like we saw it from the outside when you were like telling us, "Oh man, this is what we're bidding on." You're obviously real excited but
Yeah.
nervous,
Yeah.
and we're just like, "Wow, it's crazy! It's crazy!"
Yeah.
Right? So
It
good for you
is.
guys,
Yeah.
and I just want to stress that for people listening is stick to your fundamentals and your criteria and don't let emotions take over, because when you invest with emotions,
Yeah.
that's when you potentially can enter a raw deal that might not turn out to be the best
Yeah.
for your
Yeah.
everyday rich.
Well,
So
that's what bidding wars do to people,
Agreed.
right? Like you get emotional about it when a bidding war
yeah
starts,
yeah
right?
yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, I want to plus one on that as well. Like for this property, this first one is a little bit unique because we are playing in that prime residence space. So a
Yeah.
lot of folks came in with their family, right, with their
Yeah.
kids as well, imagining, okay, I'm going to set up, the children's playpen here, etc. So you're right. There's a lot of emotion that comes into it, but at the end of the day, like in my opinion, like the number one mindset that separates investors with just regular home buyers and people that are non-investors is just having patience, and then sticking to your criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you could do those two things, there is a huge advantage in terms of just going in with your gut feeling, like Jason said, and just letting emotions take, and like you basically go for that ride. And I think that's one of the biggest things I want to kind of share with you guys as well, is just make sure that in any deal that you do, even if it's stocks or bonds, right, you have that mindset in terms of, okay, like this is my criteria and I'm going to wait until I get like enough due diligence and I do my homework that I find a good opportunity that I can invest in.
Mm-hmm.
Only then do I think like you're making a great investment choice, and it's something that you won't have buyer's remorse or like regret
Yeah.
over afterwards.
yeah if that exactly having a ability to sleep at night knowing that you made the best decisions you could have made on your criteria, that that really goes a long way for your
It
mental
does.
health.
Oh,
It
yeah, for
does. It
sure.
does.
Right?
For
It
sure.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just the fact that you're here now is a testament to your patience, and obviously like working with your parents, right? Because you're mentioning we. So is we you and some partners, or you and your parents, or you and your girlfriend?
Yeah,
How's that
yeah.
work?
So for this first one, it was me and my parents as well.
Okay.
They contributed, they contributed a little bit. Most of the down payment, most of the down payment was done through savings that I had over the years.
Hmm.
The mortgage is something that I carry under my personal name,
Hmm.
and they kind of helped fill in the blanks in terms of some of the closing costs and a little bit of the down as well,
Yeah.
because we are talking about like $1 million plus property.
Yep.
Yep.
But I was fortunate enough to, I've always been a pretty frugal guy, like in terms of saving. So, this property was not something that I saved on for just like a couple of years. Like I've been saving for this for like a very long time.
Yep.
So over time has been able to, slowly grow that kind of piggy bank so I can eventually get into a property like this.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel very fortunate to be in this position.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because part of the basics of financial literacy starts with savings. As boring and as simple as it sounds, and this other crowd of saying, yeah, you won't be able to save your way to wealth. It's
It's
true,
true.
but you need to have the discipline of being able to save when you need to actually accumulate some money, right?
Yep.
At some point, you're going to have money compound and work for itself. But at the early ages, like you, Taki, like what do we all do? We have to save, because not all of us come out
Mhm.
come out of high school or university and be like, well, I got all
Yeah.
this money flowing out from whatever. It's
Yep.
the
Yeah.
basics of saving, which really led to you where you are now. So like living at home. I mean, being Chinese, you were living at home, right? Come on,
Yeah,
just
no car,
yeah,
no little liabilities, no
yeah.
credit card debt, all
Uh,
that stuff.
yeah, and like, come on, like when we live in Canada or in North America, that's so frowned upon for some reason, right? Like,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
it's
is.
It
like you
totally.
still living with your parents. I'm like, hell yeah, man! I get, I get food every day, just
Yeah.
whatever, and it's a testament to the culture of Orientals and Asians, right? Where, and really a lot of I would say even Europeans and other cultures, like it's that whole part of family culture,
Yeah.
family first, and really want to excel like everyone's future. So anyways, sidebar there. But so okay, you finally get this deal now, right? You are still working your 9 to 5 obviously, to be able to do
Hmm.
this. And then the idea, okay, now you, I guess, find tenants, right? Because you have to have someone help you pay off the house as a tenant, and so that you could either live rent free or make a profit, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know if we
Hmm.
covered that. Like the whole point of how, like the advantage of house hacking, right? Is I don't know if you want to tack it, if you want to explain, like, why did you want to house hack?
yeah,
Like, what's
what?
the advantage of
Sure.
house
Yes, what?
hacking?
Yeah,
Yeah. So the way I look at it, like I think house hacking is the ultimate strategy for the first time home buyer, because it does two things. It gives you shelter in that it gives you a place to live, but also it helps you pay off your mortgage and any expenses that are associated with that property. Because what you're doing is essentially you are dividing the property into basically two sections. One section that you can live in, that's owner occupied, and the other section that you can have a tenant to live in as well. And once you get the tenant in, they're going to be paying you monthly rent, and you can use that rent to basically offset your mortgage costs, your tax expenses, utilities, etc. It's really up to you and the tenant to negotiate and decide on.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it as like landlording training wheels almost, right? Because
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
you have a tenant inside your property, but you're also inside the property as well, right? So there's like, like it's really easy if anything, ever breaks or you need to fix anything, like they can literally go down to your room and be like, hey, like, can you help me out here, blah, blah, blah. Or just give you a text, etc. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, landlording training wheels. I think it's a great first step, and I highly recommend doing that.
I like that, landlord training wheels. I'm going to use
Yeah.
that going forward.
Yeah,
Hey, thanks for that. I'm going to steal that. Okay.
no problem.
Uh, okay, so that's awesome. landlord training wheels. So got the house after 80 visits and 80 tours. So now you're going to look for tenants, which in this market is, there's a lot of them, but not a lot of quality tenants. Not
Yes, sir.
necessarily.
Yeah.
So run us through, like, what was that process like? Where did you start, and how did you end
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, it was definitely a fun process for sure. It was challenging too, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think to begin with, when you are finding tenants in your property, no matter if you're house hacking or you're not house hacking, you got to first understand like where those tenants will look for potential properties to rent. In suburbs like Richmond Hill, Markham, Vaughan, usually that's done through the MLS. So they find listings on realtor.ca and they work through the agents to facilitate that deal. If you venture outside of GTA, like there's been instances where a lot of folks will find rental properties in Facebook Marketplace,
Mhm.
and like other kind of avenues as well. But understanding where your tenants will look for properties is the number one, is the first thing. Once you understand where they're looking for properties, in this case it's realtor, or realtor.ca, like the next step is designing your listing, and working with your agent to best market your property. So like I said, I was working with my agent Jason, and he's super familiar with the Richmond Hill area, so he was able to essentially help me stage the property and just make sure that the property is in good condition for touring, or for viewings. Um, and pro tip here, I actually used an app called Matterport. It's free on iOS, and it allows you to take your phone camera and create a 3D virtual tour of the property. And this is actually pretty helpful in 2022, like during the pandemic time, I guess,
Mhm.
in a sense, because there's been instances where people are hesitant on heading into properties and they just want to be able to tour on their phone.
Mhm.
So using Matterport is a great tool because it just allows them to quickly tour the property at their own convenience. But yeah, and then after that, it's a matter of taking high quality pictures. I'd recommend hiring like a photographer to do that. If you have a DSLR camera, that works as well. Make sure that the lighting is good, you're taking in a good time of day, and then just having the listing live. That's like the first part. Like once you get the listing live, but then when you're trying to find a tenant for your house hacking opportunity, there are also some caveats that you guys should be aware of as well. And here are some things that I've noticed as well in my journey. So the number one thing is that the majority of tenants are actually going to be turned off by the fact that there's a landlord living in the property. They're envisioning that they can have the whole property to themselves, and they want a private experience. And that makes a lot of sense, especially for the rents and the premiums that we're charging for properties in these locations. So working around that actually is something that I quickly picked up on, and it's something that future kind of landlord training wheel people should be aware of. And another thing as well is just kind of making sure that the property itself is in good condition for viewing. So for us, like there was some cosmetic changes that we had to do for the kitchen in the main floor. I wasn't happy with the way that it was delivered out of the box. So we made some changes there, installed LED lighting all across the house, make sure everything was good to go and very clean. That will set you up for success as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then in terms of how we were able to get a tenant for this property, it was actually a funny story. So what happened was we put this rental unit up on the market. It was sitting there for maybe just under 2 weeks. We actually got a whole bunch of people touring the property. However, we only got one, maybe two people that were actually interested in renting with us. And the reason why was because as soon as they realized that there was the landlord that was already occupying the basement of the property, they were a little bit hesitant on signing that contract. However, what happened was my neighbor who lives just a couple, maybe two townhouses down from me, she actually just walked up to my property one day when I was working, and she knocked on the door and she was like, "Hey, like I'm your neighbor. My name's Ada. Like, can I go ahead and tour your property?" I was like, "Okay, sure." So she walked around the property, took a nice video, and then she sent it to her friend, and she was like, "Oh, like one of my friends, they live in Hong Kong, but they're actually looking to move to Canada, as their mom, like really wants to see them again, right?" And then she was like, "Oh, like it would be amazing. How cool would it be if they lived just a couple houses down from where I live?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fantastic. Like, feel free to send that information to them, and like put me in touch with them as well. I'm more than happy to kind of answer any questions that they have on the property." So a day or two passed, and then she gave me a call and she's like, "Oh, like I sent the video to these to my friends, and they're really interested. Their parents are interested in taking a look at that property. Is that okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure. Like they're more than welcome to come." And then they were like, "Oh, like they speak Cantonese mainly. Do you know how to speak Cantonese?" And I'm like, to be honest, like my Cantonese is not the best. I do need some work on that.
Yeah, join the
But I
club,
was
man.
like,
Join the club.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, like I wonder who I know that knows how to speak Cantonese and is good at real estate." So I was like, "Yo, mom, I need to
Yeah,
help."
let's say mom and dad, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, like like come with me, like like let's welcome these the mom and dad into the property, so they can have the tour." So
Did you bring them
yeah, it
fruit?
was
Did you bring them like a basket of oranges?
no. we didn't, but we made sure they had nice warm water at the end as
Okay,
well,
yeah.
right? Like boiled
Warm
water
water and slippers.
And
Slippers.
slippers.
and slippers. Yeah, the slippers were there at the door, but yeah, like we were able to work as a team, Mom and I, and we were able to essentially have them tour the property, answer any questions. We ended up actually just chilling in the basement for another 2 hours talking about random stuff, but
Oh,
Yeah.
like
wow.
she
Wow.
yeah, like she's extremely kind and very nice, and I think that relationship helped us essentially close this deal, because afterwards, like, there was trust there, and then now, like, the tenants are living upstairs, and they're having a wonderful time so far. They absolutely love the property and all the space that it provides them.
So they're not
So
jamming
yeah,
out to karaoke right now? And
no,
no.
and they got they
Okay. All
got they
right.
got the little kids. I think
Yeah,
there might be bedtime
yeah.
now, but
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
yeah,
cool
like
story, man. See, like this is sometimes the magic where it happens, where you're planning one thing and you're doing all the things that you need to do by putting up your ad on MLS, on Facebook, wherever all the things need to go. And then
mhm.
your neighbor, just someone happens to pass by and see the same thing and be like, "Hey, I got someone that might want to stay here." And those turn out to be some of the best ones, because it's obviously a mutual reference, mutual connection that kind of breaks that ice. So,
Just shows
100%.
you the power of
Yeah,
network,
yeah,
right?
show you
Like
power networking.
when it comes to
100%.
running a
Yeah,
business or whatever it is, it's, yeah, you can do your typical sales things, your marketing, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes it's just your
yeah,
network that gets you the best result,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Taki, you were mentioning about the whole overcoming the fact that a landlord was occupying the house, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if you were to, let's say you did not end up with this tenant, right? You didn't have your neighbor knock on your door. How would
Hmm.
you have planned to get around that? Like, what was your thought process of getting around that?
Yeah. So there was a couple of things I was thinking. To be honest, the rental leasing price that we had was a little bit at the higher end, and it was comparable to houses that were renting out the entire property,
Yeah.
and not being owner occupied. So, of course, like, one lever that you can pull is price, right? So you could drop that down a little bit, and compensate for the fact that that there's a landlord living in the property as well. However, actually, what I would have done is, um, I would actually, like, I've actually since done this, but I've invested in a lot of, like, soundproofing within, like, like the transition that separates both units,
Mhm.
as well as making sure that the entrances are very accessible to both myself and the tenants as well, including that description within including that information within the description, and making sure that the showing, or the realtors that are showing the properties understand that that's the situation. I think that would help us filter out candidates who would be more inclined,
Hmm.
with living with the landlord. Just making sure that that transparency is upfront there as well. I think that's the best way to go about it. And like I said, I think the number one thing that I would have done is just practice patience again,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because that's the number one thing, right? Like you can't rush this process. Same thing with how we purchase the property. We got to make sure that we're taking our time here, and we have enough due diligence, and we've gone through enough prospects that when we make that decision in terms of who we rent out with, we're confident in terms of that end decision. And it's something that like Jason said, will help you sleep at night, right? So
Yeah.
practicing patience, I think, is probably something else that underrated, kind of common sense, but it is something that 100% I think would be quite critical
Okay.
for this.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, like you're mentioning, for people that are listening to Taki talk about this process, and you're like, okay, finding the tenant seems like one of the most challenging parts, and it most
Hmm.
definitely
It
is.
is.
So, especially in this market right now, where there's a lot of demand, right? So the pool is big, and you have to take your time in filtering out the best tenant for your property, but also for yourself, because ultimately you as
Yep.
the landlord are you're going to be working with the tenant all the time. They're your client,
Yes,
right?
that's
So
right.
if they, even though they come up and be like, hey, I could pay everything, I got great credit and all that stuff, but something's off with, let's say, their personality or their demeanor or whatever, right? It could be a living hell for you in terms of nuisances for those kind of things, the
Hmm.
day-to-day management. So yeah, great points, Taki, like practicing patience, because we ourselves and other investors have gone several weeks having
Oh yeah,
vacancies
Oh yeah.
because of
yeah,
the fact that we would refuse to sign on just any tenant, um, because
yeah,
it could get you in a lot of trouble where you're dealing for months at the landlord tenant board
yeah.
trying to evict.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a huge
in
headache.
on yeah, especially where we invest in Ontario, right?
Yeah,
Like that's like the number one thing.
yeah,
Like,
Hmm.
you can have the best property and the best investment, right? And on paper it makes you, a bunch of money, but if your tenant quality isn't there, then all of a sudden, like, that investment starts looking different,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing that I think, we know as investors, but I think it's important to kind of, echo one more time
yeah,
is, in Ontario, like finding a good tenant is your number one job as an investor if you're looking to, rent out your properties long term. And like Jason said, that those are your customers, right? So like, those are the individuals that you're dealing with most frequently in this business. So do yourself a favor, and find someone that will work well with you and your style, and fits your property the best. And don't be afraid if you got to wait weeks or even months, right, like for a good tenant.
Yeah.
It's better off doing that than rushing the process and just filling the vacancy, because that will cause you more pain down the road.
Yeah, for
bam,
sure.
that is going to be some hot fire IG clip right there. I love it. Great job. All right.
Yes. So I didn't ask you in the beginning, like, I guess, why are you doing this? Like, what's your end game when it comes to like investing in real estate? Like, what's your end game here?
Yeah. So I feel like in okay, so in Ontario, it's a beautiful place to live. Like honestly, like it's a good place. But housing affordability is off the charts. Like it's very unaffordable,
Hmm.
for the average person to buy real estate. And there's been a lot of, quote unquote efforts in terms of kind of creating affordable units, etc. However, I think there's huge demand for affordable housing, and it's something that, like we're going to, have to satisfy, if we want to have this population in Ontario grow, and people like not leaving the province for other locations. Long term, what I want to do is, create affordable housing units and essentially being able to tokenize real estate developments. So
Mhm.
I want to be able to. This is an idea that I'm still working in my head as well, in the whole business process of doing that. But I want to be responsible for the development of properties, whether it be townhouses or multifamily units, and then essentially creating a system that will allow folks to purchase equity within that investment and tokenize that equity to make it accessible and affordable. So whether it eventually becomes like a rent to own kind of situation or a truly affordable kind of housing situation where you're renting and you're also buying shares in terms of the equity position of these units. I think
Mhm.
that's something that I want to explore down the line. I haven't really seen that done yet, and I think there's an opportunity there for sure. Especially as I think about my generation and people my age eventually going into the real estate market. I know how tough it can be, and I know the barrier just in terms of capital and barrier to entry is quite high. So if there's a way to reduce that down the road or make that just more accessible, I think that's something that I want to help pioneer and help kind of transition so that we actually can house Ontarians, and they have a good place to live in the near future. So long term, that's kind of what I want to strive towards.
It's cool. When you are at that beta stage, if you need angel investment and yeah, hit us up. Maybe we'll have some
Equity.
enough equity to give some money there, and buy some shares off you, Mr.
Yeah.
Techie.
Oh, dude, man.
Just
We'll do
something I was just you were mentioning about Matterport, and I'm a stock guy too, so
that.
I was
Hmm.
looking at Matterport. So shout out Matterport on the Nasdaq, ticker MTTR. Okay. The past year performance. So, like you were mentioning, the Matterport's great. We use it in commercial real estate, and it's finally trickled down to the
Nice.
residential to have the 3D views, the walkthroughs. It's
Yes.
super helpful with walkthroughs, especially during
Hmm.
COVID. So year to date, up 30%.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oof. Wow.
It's kind of ridden the tech wave, right?
Mhm.
But past 5 years is down minus 71%. So
Ooh.
not all things are what they seem. So
Interesting. Interesting.
yeah, I haven't really looked into this company very much, but anyways, I just wanted to share with that because this is
Financial
financial
literacy.
literacy and investing, and just not just real estate, so other things too. So all right, Taki. So you are now house hacking. You are working towards building that empire of yours. For you, and going forward, what's your everyday rich to you? How would you describe your everyday rich?
I think for me, it's having the freedom to choose like what I spend, my time doing every single day. And I know that's something that a lot of people, will deem as the ultimate freedom in a sense. But the way I look at it is every day that I'm learning about real estate and getting better is me buying myself time back, basically. Because
Mhm.
eventually, like we'll be in a position where hopefully I can exit the corporate life 9 to 5 and then venture into this real estate business full time. And as I work towards that, if I'm making progress every single day, I think to me that is my everyday rich. That's how I accumulate that knowledge currency, and more importantly, how I can share that with other people as well. So yeah.
Capitalism with a little bit of education. I
Yep.
love it. I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So as we kind of wrap up, we like to have this fun segment called like your everyday sorry, your crazy rich Asian segment. And ask you kind of off the cuff cultural things about you, so that people get a little bit on the lighter side of Tacky. So okay, Taki. So growing up, you were mentioning your unconventional Chinese family, right? A bit of unconventional. So being unconventional, did you say "I love you" to your parents before?
Hell
Very.
nah, bro. Hell nah. Hell nah. What is this? Like,
I don't know. He said
definitely not.
unconventional, so took a stab at it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's such a funny question. Yeah, let me put the question around to you guys. Do you guys know any Asian families that actually say "I love you"? And do you guys do that to your children as well?
We interviewed a few people and they said yes, actually. So we
Very
were
few, though.
very few. Like they're the outliers, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, but for the most part, yeah,
No.
us growing up, we never
No.
heard anyone
That's
say
so
"I
No.
love
funny.
you." Like
But
even the parents would never say "I love you." "I love you" was like, "Did you eat yet? Eat more.
Yeah.
Here's some fruit."
Yeah.
but I do say
I
it to
love
my
that.
kids.
Yeah, I say it to my kids. Like
Yeah, that's good.
I still don't say I love you to my parents, although like I do love them, but it's just,
Yeah.
I hug them now. Yeah, I give them these awkward hugs. It's like,
Yeah. Try
okay,
to give
come
hugs.
here, hug you, and it's, we get our kids to hug our the grandparents. So it's just, but yeah, it's just,
Oh my gosh.
hey, cultural problems,
know.
man, cultural problems.
That's
So,
too funny. That's too funny.
okay, so, would you pick Korean barbecue or hot pot if
Ooh,
you
great
had to pick?
question. Great question.
Yeah.
I'm a big bulgogi fan. I love Korean barbecue. Yeah, so I'd probably do that. We should go to a hot pot sometime though. Honestly, I haven't been exposed to a lot of good hot pot.
Let's do
Well,
it.
you
in
are
Toronto,
in for
so
a good treat,
let's definitely
buddy.
hit that up.
All
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You want Szechuan? You want to burn your
No, I don't
numb
want.
your
I don't like Szechuan.
numb
It's
your
too,
mouth
it's too
and your
spicy
ass?
for me.
Hot going in, hot going out.
No.
Okay, cool. All right. So, uh, gin and tonics or bubble tea with extra bubbles?
Oh yeah, bubble tea for sure. But yeah, I'm more of a actually I'm more of an old fashioned guy. Like I
Oh,
appreciate gin and
Oh,
old
old
tonic,
fashioned.
fashions.
but I
Okay, I
do
totally
like
wouldn't have thought that. Yeah.
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 Next time guys come over for sure, we'll make some nice ones. But
Well, I do remember your
yeah,
bar setup. So your bar setup was really nice. That cart was really,
yeah,
really
that
spectacular.
yeah, that was all. That was actually the all. Like that was a completely 100% housewarming gifts. So all my friends just pulled together, just decided that I like drinking, so they just gave me that.
Nice.
So
Hey, you're
that was
25, like
yeah,
not married, no kids. What else would you be doing, right? You're not
Yep.
clubbing,
that's right.
so hey, might
Yeah,
as well drink.
exactly.
Drinking at home.
You know what? We should
Yeah.
set up a bar up here. Like we should put a little mini bar up here.
Yeah, we should. Instead of this coffee tea, let's put the bar.
Oh, that could get dangerous.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot more spicy interviews.
Yeah,
I like
for sure.
Exactly. The red cup specials. Okay, cool. If there was a choice between, we're gonna ask a lot of food questions because we like food and it's something that we can all relate
Everybody.
to. Food connects
Yeah.
everyone. Would you pick Red Lobster or Chinese style like stir fried garlic saucy lobster?
Oh my god,
With the
Chinese
with the ginger
The
and
ginger
onions.
and the onions.
Yeah. You guys been to a Fisherman Lobster's Clubhouse
Yeah.
right before, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Man, the fries that they have with the lobster that goes so hard. Like
Yeah.
Red Lobster has nothing against that. Yeah, nothing. Like doesn't even come close.
I don't
Like,
get it. Okay, shout out to Red Lobster, okay? But I don't like you guys. But anyways, like I just don't get it. Every time we drive by, there's so many people
It's
that are
packed.
just it's
Yeah,
packed,
yeah.
right? Like, but
Yeah.
it's so small and it's flavorless and it's like
It's just lobster drenched in butter.
yeah.
That's
I
all
don't
it
Yeah,
get
is,
it.
right?
like you can make that at home. Like I feel like
Exactly.
you know what I
That's
mean.
all they
Like
do.
I don't even know how to cook that well, but I definitely could
They
probably
just
prepare
drench
something like
everything in
that.
butter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Fisherman Lobster House thing. So, if anyone listening here, Fisherman Lobster House is like Chinese restaurant that basically serves all types of seafood, but like specialties lobsters, and they have these huge lobsters. So, during our wedding, around our wedding time, remember when we had all the relatives over?
Yeah.
We went out for some dinner, and my uncle ordered like the biggest set menu there for
Right.
lobsters, and it was like 10 pounds of lobsters. Bro, like I will try to like send you this photo and share it with everyone, but like they bring it out on this tray, this huge tray. It had two people
Oh my
walking this
lord.
tray of lobsters.
That's a tower.
It's a tower.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just dump it on you. You're like, holy crap. How am I gonna eat this?
Somehow we ate it all.
Yeah, we ate it all. Yeah, whole family, 2 tables ate it all. So
Oh my gosh, I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
So all right. If there's a country you want to visit, but it's got to be in Asia, where would you visit?
Singapore for me for sure.
Oh,
Singapore's popping
Singapore.
off.
Yeah.
I think I've read a lot of articles. It's like gonna be like the new Hong Kong and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I want to check it out for like just its beauty, but also like to see how like just the business operates there.
Yeah.
Because I visited Japan like way back a couple years ago, but just the way that they operate in terms of like how commerce is done in Japan and like the different businesses that thrive there, like it's really cool, right? And it brings me
Mm-hmm.
back into like that whole thing of taking nuance or niches from other cultures and kind of bringing it back home, right? Like kind of how my dad did with his business as well, right? There's so much value in just traveling and just seeing, observing what's out there, and how it may apply to your like your everyday rich or your everyday life kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
100% Singapore.
Nice. Yeah, we
Cool.
have. I have yet to go there. Jen's been there a few times. So,
Once, not a few times. Once.
okay, still a time. Okay. All right. So, as we kind of like close this off now, because I ran out of questions and I didn't ask ChatGPT to give me more witty questions. So, if there was one thing for people to take away from Taki, what advice would you give to young aspiring people working out their everyday rich and looking to get into investing?
Yeah.
Anything, doesn't matter what it is, house hacking, stocks, whatever, career, life. What's one thing that you would want to let people know about?
Yeah, I would say the time is, in your favor. So use it, right? Like use it to educate yourself, to meet new people, and most importantly, practice patience with
Mm-hmm.
any deal that you do. And don't be afraid to, wait for the right deal as well, right? Like there's so much pressure online on social being like, okay, like, I closed like 10 deals this year, etc. Blah, blah, blah. That will come with time for sure, right? But like when you're doing your first couple of deals, like you got to make sure that they're home runs and they're good deals, right? So take your time with it. It's a journey, right? Enjoy it. And over time, speed will come, right? But in the beginning, like you want to focus on the fundamentals, like we talked about. And like I said, just use time to your advantage, right? You're still young. So, and even if you're still, even if you're a little bit older as well, right? Like, there's nothing to rush here, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
your financial future. So just, take control of it, take your time and just enjoy the ride.
Nice.
Oh, another gem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta pull out this Gary V line, is that if you're under 30, you don't need to have everything figured out yet. Like life
Yeah.
is a journey of just trying stuff, failing at it, figuring out what you don't like and what you're not good at, so that you can do stuff that you actually become really good at eventually. So it's not about figuring it out on the first try or even the second try. So any young people that are listening out there, this elder statesman here is telling you, don't worry. Okay, there's time, but also don't squander it on things that you'll never be able to get back, because even though we clubbed a lot and wasted hell a lot of time in clubs and probably are getting
And money.
and probably killed our lungs from all the secondhand smoke, um we're still very intentional what we're doing now. So be intentional, just like Taki said. So that's great. So Taki, okay, you have great social media. I like what you do on social. So all the great videos. So how do people find you? What's your what's the best way?
Yeah, my Instagram handle is taki.wong, so TAKI dot WONG, all in lowercase. So yeah, feel free to check out my profile if you like what you see. Drop me a follow, and yeah, would love to chat with you guys about anything about real estate. Just feel free to hit me up, and yeah, we can start the conversation from there.
Sweet. All right, slide into those DMs. All right, slide into his DMs. Okay,
He's
cool.
taken.
Doesn't matter. You can still slide into DMs, man. Like,
Sign into DMs.
Yeah.
Parentheses for business purposes.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right, cool. Taki, thank you so much. So if you liked what you heard with Taki, if you thought, he said something that clicked for you, and you're like, shit, man, this kid's got so much wisdom, and or even something that we said, right, inspired you, or you learned something today. If not, okay, whatever. But hopefully you did. If so, help us by sharing these stories so that these living room conversations can get out more, so that you can have those conversations with yourself and your friends and your buddies and whoever, and really be able to design the life that you want with financial literacy and live your everyday rich. So help us out, do all the things on social, like, subscribe, blah, 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 and all that other crap. So, but Taki, thank you very much. Honestly, this is really fun, man. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Like
Likewise.
speaking to you in this format versus like, other ways. But yeah, great hearing your story. I hope that we get to invest in your startup company one day and
Yeah, for
make
sure.
because a lot of money. So I can also live my everyday rich.
Passive investing.
Passive investing.
That's right. Private equity.
Yeah. Private equity. So thanks very much. Appreciate jumping on, and
my pleasure.
We'll see you next time. All right.
Alrighty.
All right.
Have a great night, guys.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody. For
Thanks very much,
well.
everyone. All right. Till next time, guys.
See ya.
Peace.
Okay, don't hang up.
Yeah, don't hang up.
Your Everyday Rich podcast is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Any such information or other material should not be construed as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a qualified professional.